And welcome everybody to another episode of the Pregame Yard Prep here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am your host, Louis Sung. I am joined by Eric Wiedeke, and pretty soon we'll probably be joined later by Coach Eric Smith. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about here, folks. Unfortunately, technically speaking, the Miami Dolphins are still not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, but part of this I feel like now is going to be, at least this is how I feel like it should be. It should be evaluation of the young players on the roster for next season, evaluation of many things as we go on. But the San Francisco 49ers, despite their losing record, they are not about to lay down and just give up against the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, the Shanahan angle, Mike McDaniel has had a very rotten record against his old friends from that era. So Kyle Shanahan, I'm sure, knows exactly how Mike McDaniel does things. We're going to talk about who's on the inactive list, who we don't expect to play, and we will talk about all that as we go. But first, want to go ahead and mention, as always, this show is brought to you by our good friends over at prizepicks.com. Use the promo code 5 when you sign up, and they will give you $50 of promotional funds when you put in that first $5 bet. And right now, they actually have this thing called Picksmas, where basically whenever you put in a bet of any type, they will basically give you a free play for the next day. So that's during this special Christmas season. So make sure you're tuned in for that. There's also the free Nikola Jokic on the NBA side of thing, a free square for you to take advantage of. So pick your best spots, make your sign up with the promo code 5, get $50 in promotional funds, and start winning today. All right. So Eric, obviously just go and looking at the inactives list. It is once again not what we're hoping for. We're looking at the likelihood that Jalen Waddle, obviously he's not going to be playing. Tyreek Hill will be, but we'll see how much run he actually ends up getting. Channing Tindall, no surprise. Mo Kamara, Andrew Meyer, Ethan Bonner. D. Eskridge also is not available. Now, the Miami Dolphins did end up pulling up Eric Ezukanma, who, as a reminder for everybody, he was still on the practice squad all season long. So we will see if he ends up making any plays today. It was just last year that Ezukanma was actually a big part of the offense, or at least that's what it was projected to be at. And then all of a sudden, he just kind of fell off a cliff for one reason or another. The coaching staff soured on him. He wasn't getting the offense all of a sudden. I don't know what it is that happened with Ezukanma, but he's here now. He's going to try to make an impact against the San Francisco 49ers. And once again, McDaniel, even if this game doesn't ultimately mean anything in the grand scheme of things, this would at least be an opportunity to show that, you know what, McDaniel can actually beat some of his old friends besides Robert Saleh for a change. So, Eric, I'll go ahead and let you have your thoughts first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the game is significant, if for no other reason than to see how the players react in this situation, because how they react in this situation will tell you a lot about how they feel about the coaching staff. And whether or not changes need to be made over the course of next season, or over the course of the offseason heading into next year. The worst thing that can happen for Mike McDaniel and for Chris Grier is for the team to lay down and quit on them. If that happens down the stretch, then that's where I think you have to see major changes made. As far as the inactives list goes, this is actually probably a little bit better than I expected if you're looking for the Dolphins to win this ball game. Obviously, I wasn't expecting Teron Armstead or Kendall Lamb to play, considering their age and where the Dolphins are in the season, as far as their status as contenders, probably being all but eliminated mathematically. So, I mean, this Jalen Waddle being out, we kind of knew that was going to be the case. But I'm with you, Lewis. I really want to see the young players play. I'm almost a little bummed that we won't get to see Patrick Paul start at one of the tackles today, because it's especially against the Nick Bosa, because I think that this is a prime opportunity for him to get reps against probably the best pass rusher he's going to see, maybe all year long. I don't know if he gets an opportunity to start next week against Myles Garrett, but again, I would relish the opportunity to see that as well. I want to see the younger players making contributions in this one. I'm looking at Jalen Wright. I'm looking at Malik Washington. I'm looking at Chop Robinson. Any of those guys that can come in and make an impact. I'm looking at Patrick McMorris in the defensive backfield, hopefully to get some run. Those are the reasons why you want to watch this team down the stretch. You have your harebrained long shot scenarios to get into the playoffs, and that's all well and good. But I think if you're really looking for something to watch, it's those young players and the contributions that they can make leading into next season.
Coach Eric, obviously having Armstead back and having Lamb back is a big deal, but we will see how long either of those players end up staying in the game. Obviously, we see that Jackson Carman is not on the inactives list, which means that there is still a distinct likelihood that he could end up seeing the field again, much to our dismay. What do you make of what this game's going to turn out to be? Do you feel like the offense is going to have any kind of improvement, or are you kind of expecting the lay down and die mentality from these Dolphins now?
No, I mean, I've expected the lay down and die mentality a couple of times over McDaniel's tenure as the head coach, and we just haven't gotten that. So I'm not going to go out there and predict that happens this week. I think in terms of the younger guys, as much as, I'm pretty much done with this season. I surely don't expect them to make the playoffs until the team is mathematically eliminated. Then I think that, the coaches and front office owe it to the players to still put the best team out there that they feel can give them a chance. If that, unlikely scenario plays out where they have an opportunity, you got to give the vets and the best players the opportunity for that. Speaking big picture, as much as I'd like to see the young guys play this week, when we talk about the Patrick Pauls, the Jalen Rice, McMorrises, seeing more from Malik Washington, it's not going to move the needle whether those snaps happen this week or whether things don't fall our way. And we know that we're eliminated going into next week, and we get 2 games with those guys. So it's not like this is the last game of the season and this is our last chance to see those young guys. So from that perspective, I expect the team to still go out there, still to put the personnel out there that they feel is going to give them the best chance to win, and continue to do that until mathematically they are eliminated.
Well, it's good to I would like to believe that is indeed the case. I don't think Mike McDaniel has lost the locker room or anything, although I do remember at one point that Zach Sealer mentioned in the press conference that he had basically tuned out McDaniel to some extent. I don't want to hear that anymore. Whatever it is that McDaniel's talking about, obviously Sealer was alluding to the fact that he had gotten tired of whatever speech was being given. This was right on the heels of a hard-earned victory, I will admit. So Sealer was kind of making an admission of, maybe he had a point, but I was just tired of hearing it. I don't know if maybe in the future that means that McDaniel is becoming cliche in the locker room. And I don't know. I don't know what players look for in their post-game, pre-game, mid-game speeches or whatever the case may be. I as somebody who admittedly did not play the game before, I don't know what entails a good speech. I know that Jameis Winston fancies himself a good speech maker, but all it did was turn him into one big meme, and he's capitalized on that. So got to give him credit. Like, as long as you can make money off of your meme status, go for it, I guess. I digress. Let's go ahead and we'll talk about the quarterback position. So obviously Miami, I made a comment just last night because I saw that Kirk Cousins was likely to be released by the Atlanta Falcons, and the Michael Penix era has officially started in Atlanta. So, and I mentioned that, I would love to have Kirk Cousins as a backup next season. Now, obviously, there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not he even be available. Some team will probably pick him up as a stopgap starter or something along those lines. That's good for him. The comments, though, that I had seen were very snide in remarks, though, in response to my tweet, because they were basically saying, I would prefer for Kirk Cousins to be the starter over Tua instead of the backup to Tua, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that a lot of people have soured just because of the last game's performance. Let's say that Tua has an average game and Miami wins. Let's say average. Let's not forget about all world, all pro, really good game. This say he has a meh game. He has 2 touchdowns, an interception. He doesn't get like 90% of his completions. Do you feel like that would change the mentality of what we think about him this season? Because Eric, I know that you were not happy with him. I wasn't happy with him either, but I don't think I was quite as upset with him as a lot of others were last week.
No, I mean, at this point in the season, number one, I really don't know if there's that much that can really be done to change I think the way that people feel, especially about Tua, because people on either side of the fence are pretty much dug in to what they're going to feel about the guy. There's really not much he's going to do in either direction to change the minds of the fan base. I think when you're looking at if he has an average game and they win, that's fine because these are the kinds of games that they haven't won, period, throughout the McDaniel era. And I know that San Francisco doesn't have a winning record, but they're one of those teams where they're familiar with Mike McDaniel, coming from the Shanahan system. And number two, this is still a San Francisco 49ers team that is very talented. They're going to have Nick Bosa today. They're going to have Dre Greenlaw. They're going to have, George Kittle still. They're still going to have Deebo Samuel. This isn't a bad team coming in here. And so, I don't think you can look at the game and be like, oh, well, Tua just, won a game against another black kind of opponent. I think that this is a pretty good 49ers team still and a dangerous one at that. To just touch on the Kirk Cousins thing for a second. No. There's cooked, there's burnt, and then there's whatever Kirk Cousins is. I like the guy personally, really. I just after the injury, he's just not the same guy. I was watching him a couple weeks ago, and a lot of people complain that Tua has no arm. Oh my God, Kirk Cousins looks like Chad Pennington at the end right now, dude. It's honestly kind of sad because he was a very good quarterback prior to the injury. And he's just very clearly not the same guy. So I would be out on Kirk Cousins as a backup quarterback next year. Not that I think you could even get him. I think Cleveland with Stefanski probably jumps on him as a bridge quarterback with their whole situation. But
don't they have a bridge quarterback still?
No, they're starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They're over the whole Jameis thing.
No, I'm talking about Deshaun Watson.
Oh, no, he's gonna be hurt next year, anyways.
He's gonna be hurt next year and every other year leading up to his end of his contract. All right, Coach Eric. So, what are we looking for today as far as the defensive side of the ball? Obviously, we've had our frustrations. I feel like that the running defense is actually stronger than we've been given any credit to, but we've also been over evaluating what we think of the pass defense because we see all these players. We see Jalen Ramsey, we see Kendall Fuller, and we think, well, we must be able to do something. Like, what are we missing? Why are we getting so confused on defense? Why does it seem like it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, they can just pick us apart? Like something is not right, and I wanted to hear what you feel like is missing here.
Well, I think it's a big opportunity on both sides of the ball. I don't think that we're going to change opinions on either side of the ball in terms of personnel today, but when it comes to coaching, I think on the offensive side, I think it's a great opportunity for Mike McDaniel to go against a coach that's very familiar with him and show whether he's able to make adjustments to win in that aspect. But defensively, it's the same idea. We've had a lot of trouble with tackling in recent weeks. Look, last week there was the early play that Holland had the guy lined up on the jet sweep and completely misses. Some of that has come down to, again, the week before that, I think it was against the Packers when Holland came up and had help and didn't play with proper leverage to use that help and missed a tackle there as well. When you look at the 49ers and the run game that they have, it's very similar to us. It's just more, they're at a further stage in setting up that run game. One thing that I, really enjoy watching them is just how, connected, right? McDaniel and Frank Smith constantly use the word connected when they're talking about their offensive line, their running backs, and the skill players that are blocking. The 49ers are a very connected team. So I know they're, down to their fourth or fifth running back, whatever it is, but they're also missing Trent Williams at left tackle, but they are still going to do a good job of getting to the right assignments and, creating those lanes. So it's going to come down to, in run defense, it's going to come down to discipline of, filling your run gap, not trying to do too much, because as soon as you do that is when, whoever is at running back for the 49ers is going to see that and cut back and be running for, 60, 70 yards. So I think that, the ability for Weaver to get the defense to play disciplined defense, right? You use the help that you have. This isn't going to be a, Jordan Brooks just goes out there and gets 20 tackles because he's just running everywhere. It's going to be more like, we're going to see if we succeed, it's going to be more stuff like, Ogba on the front side turning runs back into a whole pile of defenders, or we're stringing the run all the way to the outside, but still owning that line of scrimmage where Jalen Ramsey is running the guy out of bounds. So to have a successful game today, I don't think it's going to take individual, heroic performances. It's going to be a solid effort across the board to play assignment defense and to have those, the players that are unsung heroes today that aren't showing up in the box score, but they're doing their job. And that, that comes down to coverage as well. You have to be disciplined with this team. They're going to be going play action. They're going to be using the similar motions to what we do. And, if you're backside of an outside zone run and you're flying down to try to get that from the backside and Purdy's booting out the other way and Kittle's leaking out, it's going to get ugly. So, big opportunity for Weaver and the defense to show that they can play within the scheme, they can play good assignment football and contain an offense that is, very, very detail oriented.
All right, so let's go ahead and we'll move on to the prize picks portion of this show. So we have plenty of picks as always to choose from. Like as usual, most of them are Devon Achane in nature. For the past few weeks, the Devon Achane rush yards in first 5 attempts number, for the first few weeks of the season, this seemed like it was a given that it would be over. Now it seems like it's a given that it's going to be under, just because, again, the running game seems to have taken a severe step back in the past several weeks. Eric, I will go ahead and ask you, do you feel comfortable picking the under on this one again?
Yes.
Personally, I feel like
extremely so.
Yeah.
Extremely so. The run game where it's at right now is just, it's in a situation where it's not getting fixed until the off season. This is what you're riding with for the rest of the year. That's kind of where they are with it.
Yeah. Coach, so one of the things that I also noticed here on this list, and this one feels very comfortable for me as well, is the Tua Tagovailoa pass completions number. So he's been over 25 completions for the past 5 games. I feel like this is going to be another one where Tua is going to be throwing the ball a lot. Do you feel comfortable with the over on this, or would you pick something else?
No, I'd agree with that. I feel like the changes that are going to be made on the offensive line today, I think, are going to be more in the sense of trying to bulk up that pass protection as opposed to trying to accelerate the run game. I think, like Eric said, like the run game is what the run game is at this point. And, for them to win, it's going to be to completing high percentage passes. It's going to be more screens that are, extension of the run game, all of that stuff. So when we talk about any number for Tua completions, I would take the over on that.
All right. Let's keep going down the list here. So how comfortable do you feel that Zach Sealer gets a sack today, gentlemen?
That probably wouldn't be something that I would play right now. I know that it looks good and he's been good the last few weeks, but this is, you got to understand, San Francisco runs a very similar offense to what Miami does. Brock Purdy's going to get the ball out of his hands quickly. I wouldn't personally. I just stay away.
How about the Tyreek fantasy score number? Is he going to be locked down again today? I personally feel like he will be.
I don't know how much he's actually going to really. I think Tyreek is going to be one of those. This could be a week where he's active, but maybe on a pitch count. I don't think that he's going to be getting a full Tyreek Hill, workload in this one.
I agree with that. I mean, Tyreek, like, no matter what percentage of Tyreek you get, he's still one of the top playmakers on this team. Without Waddle on the other side, we saw last week what that looks like, and probably going to see a lot of attention to Tyreek's side, and they're probably, gonna take that over trying to shut down a Jonnu or something like that. Just keep it short and make the tackle.
All right. Now let's take a look at the 49ers side of things. So there's actually a demon on Brock Purdy here. So I personally feel like that if I was ever going to try to multiply the amount of money I would be able to get, I feel like I'd be comfortable with this one today. I personally feel like Brock Purdy's going to get his touchdown passes today just because I don't trust Miami's pass defense right now. They seem discombobulated. I don't think they're going to be able to keep everybody locked down.
Yeah, the safeties are your communication hub in the secondary, and the Dolphins have none of that right now. So it's not a great position to be in.
Coach, let's talk about Deebo Samuel. So as a rusher, he's basically been non-existent. Do you feel like that's going to continue against Miami, or do you feel like today's the day where he finally breaks this awful streak that I'm looking at here?
I mean, at 13.5 yards, I would feel comfortable playing that just because of what they have in the backfield. It's their, fourth, fifth running back. It's not going to be a guy that is super – I mean, he's going to be familiar with the system, but, I think we could see Deebo in the backfield more than what we've seen in previous weeks. So, giving him a couple of handoffs, giving him some jet sweeps, stuff like that, I think that would be a reasonable number to look for out of Deebo today.
All right. And I guess the last thing we'll take a look at here, Juwan Jennings. I know that's Chris Kaufman's boy right here. Do you feel like he makes his impact today, or there's a lot of players we could look at? I guess
George Kittle playing.
George Kittle appears to be playing. He's on this list.
Whatever his overs are, anything, receptions, touchdowns, yards.
Play the receptions.
Anything with George Kittle today. The Dolphins defense does not handle tight ends very well. They haven't for like 10 years. I think George Kittle continues that today.
All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll finish that off here. So let's get into the predictions. Coach Eric, I'll let you go first. What happens today? Are we going to be mad? Are we going to be happy when we finally return for post-game?
I don't think it really matters. Unless it's a blowout loss and we're just pissed off with the product that we see on the field. Like, even if you come out and you end up with a blowout win, it's going to be very empty. A close win one way or the other, or loss is kind of what you expect here. I don't, as much as I don't think that McDaniel has lost the locker room, I don't feel confident in McDaniel being able to outcoach Kyle Shanahan in a game like this. So I would, I'm going to pick the 49ers here, probably going to go on a lower scoring game, maybe like a 21-17.
Eric?
I kind of tend to agree. I think this is a game where the Dolphins kind of are the Dolphins at this point. We know what they're going to be, and what they are going to be is probably not good enough to win this game. I've got San Francisco 27-17. And as an aside, for the 3 people watching that are interested in this kind of thing, the Titans look like they maybe potentially could be pulling off a comeback versus the Colts here. They brought it back to a 1-possession game. For the 2 of you that are still, watching for the Dolphins to make the playoffs, they would need the Colts to lose this week.
All right. It also should be mentioned, apparently Isaiah Wynn is starting at right guard today. So it looks like Eichenberg got benched. Too late as far as I'm concerned. But I feel like that this is the game that Miami – I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this one to Miami. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what the score is going to be. I'm just going to say a number. I'm going to say 28-26 just because I need a number. I don't know how it's going to go, but call it a gut feeling. I just think Miami wins this game.
Did I give a score?
What's that now?
Did I give a score?
I don't know, and at this point,
Yeah.
I really don't care,
Yeah,
bro.
I think you were
I don't care.
26,
I-
17, or 27.
I'm wiped out. I'm
Yeah,
zoned
you're
out.
right. You're right.
All right. Let's go ahead and call it. We'll be back for post game. As once again, PrizePicks.com. Use that promo code 5, and they will give you $50 for promotional funds when you sign up using that code and put in a $5 bet. So don't waste any more time. Even if the Dolphins don't win, you still have a chance to. So again, promo code 5 FIVE. Go to PrizePicks.com. Get started today. We will see you back here after the game for post game.